Now, we were talking about last time you were here, fall favorites. Getting into the fall season, October, you mentioned you were going to be cooking some fall recipes.
Yes, this is a great fall recipe. This is our pumpkin bread with a streusel topping, and actually these are little pie pumpkins right here. I just picked these up at the store. You know, when you think of pumpkins, you just think of carving them, but not necessarily a lot of people eat them.
Right.
And this recipe actually used the canned pumpkin, but for those of you that are interested in using a fresh pumpkin, it's really easy to do. You just cut one of these up, put it in a baking dish, put a little bit of water in there, and cover it, and then just pop it in the microwave for about 10 minutes, and then you just scoop the flesh out and mash it up, and that's all this is.
Oh, wow.
So that's pretty interesting.
Lucy, you always come up with the easiest and the best recipes. You have to check out her pork tenderloin recipe she did a couple weeks ago with us. I've put it, or it's on our website under the Studio 10 tab. I shared it on my Facebook page just because it was so good, and it's so easy.
Well, thank you. That was our recipe last week. Remember, we did the pumpkin pie spice and the sweet potatoes. So this is our second fall recipe, kind of for October. So anyway, you can either use the pie pumpkins for this or your canned pumpkins. So we'll get started on the wet ingredients first. I just used 4 large eggs. And then this is 1 14-ounce can of pumpkin puree.
Okay. And any kind of pumpkin puree will do?
Yeah, this is just 100% pure pumpkin. When you go to Greer's to get your stuff, you will see pumpkin pie filling and pumpkin. This is just the plain pumpkin.
Okay, good. So you have to explain a little bit more for that, especially when you have me going to the store and like looking and trying to decide what I need to get.
And this is 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 3/4 cup of, this is vegetable oil, but you could use canola oil, whichever one, just not an olive oil, just a really non-flavored oil. And that oil is going to keep our pumpkin bread nice and moist. Using oil in a cake batter or batter like this, such as banana bread or your pumpkin bread, really lends to the moistness of it. So we're just going to get this mixed up, and that's all our wet ingredients, just a few little things.
And we're going to continue to mix that. Again, a great recipe. You know what else? Candace Murphy and I, one of our reporters, I've made pumpkin bread before. She has too, and it's great for breakfast, like when you're enjoying your coffee, like a little breakfast treat on your way out the door, so you can have that, or as a dessert after your dinner at night. Pumpkin bread is just anything pumpkin.
I know. And
this October.
This recipe is awesome because it's going to make 2 loaves. So you can keep either both for yourself or one for yourself and give the other one away.
Both for ourselves, Lucy. That's how we're doing it this morning.
And we're going to work on this pumpkin bread with streusel topping. Lucy Greer from Greer's Market and Catering. What's the next step?
The next step is putting together our dry ingredients, and I'll tell everybody what we did with our wet ingredients. But first, I just want to say to everybody out there listening how happy I am for Cherish and her new job in Nashville. When I first started coming here several years ago, Cherish was nothing but nice and open, and she does her research on everybody that's coming in, and she is just as nice in person as she is on camera. So I'm really proud of you. And I'm gonna miss you. I'm telling you.
I was trying to move past stuff and not get emotional. Lucy, okay.
I'm proud of you. That's great.
I miss you, Lucy.
Well, thank you.
You'll have to send me some pumpkin bread and some other stuff.
Yes.
The mail will still work. So send me some of this good stuff.
You deserve it. Great job.
You.
So the wet ingredients was 4 eggs, 1 can of our pumpkin puree, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, and we also had 3/4 cup of vegetable oil in there.
Okay.
So now our dry ingredients is just 1 cup of sugar, 1 cup of light brown sugar, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, and then to season this up, we are going to put in a tablespoon of our pumpkin pie spice, half a teaspoon of salt, and then we got to make this pumpkin bread rise. So we have 2 teaspoons of baking soda, 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So we'll just mix this up lightly and get it worked into our wet ingredients. And like I mentioned before, this recipe is great because it makes 2 loaves. So they're going to be filled up about halfway full. And it's really a quick bake too. We're gonna have the oven preheated to 350 degrees, and they just bake for about 30 minutes. So,
Is that the pumpkin pie spice I'm smelling?
yes, that is our cinnamon, our nutmeg, our
man.
allspice, kind of all mixed in there together. You could certainly, you know, just throw in a little bit of nutmeg and cinnamon and just kind of your typical things for pumpkin pie, but I just like it all right there in one container.
That smells terrific.
So I just kind of do it in thirds. You don't really want to put all of it in together. You just want to divide it out a little bit and just let everything absorb together, and just put it on low, and we'll get it mixed up.
That's a good idea too, so flour doesn't fly everywhere.
Yes.
We've been there, right?
Been
I think all of us.
there, been there lots of times. And you could also use a stand mixer, of course, if you had that, or if you had a whisk, you could just whisk in your wet ingredients together and then just kind of use a spatula to put this flour in, but it's just a lot easier to use a hand mixer.
And everything, of course, this recipe is on our Studio 10 page on fox10tv.com, and all of these ingredients you can get at Greer's, right, Lucy?
Yeah, right. We are ready for the holidays. I picked up these pumpkins at one of our stores the other day, along with 2 bigger pumpkins out by my front door, and I already got my Halloween candy. So I'm getting in the mood for Halloween.
Are you eating your Halloween candy,
No,
or are you saving it?
I'm
What?
saving. I
No
know.
way. I don't
Yes.
believe you.
Yes, if I open it, my husband and I will eat all of it before
Yep.
Halloween. So he said, "Why'd you bring that home?" I'm like, "I'm gonna put it in here. We're gonna wait for the kids to come, and whatever is left is up for grabs."
I don't know how you are. You have some restraint. I couldn't even put it in the cabinet and try. I knew it was there. I was like, I have to open it. No way, no way. So yeah, those little Mary Jane peanut butter kisses, which most people don't like. Do you like those?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, good. Because a lot of people don't. I think they're fabulous, but you have some restraint. Go ahead, girl. All right, this recipe, get Halloween candy, pumpkins, anything that you need for the fall. Greer's Market and Catering and the recipe, fox10tv.com, Studio 10 page.
From Greer's Market and Catering, and I've been excited about this all morning long. Lucy's pumpkin bread. Where are we at in the process, Lucy?
We are ready to put it in our loaf pans. This recipe makes 2 loaves, which is great. And we started out with our wet ingredients, which was our eggs, our canned pumpkin, we had some vanilla, and we had a little bit of vegetable oil. And then we mixed in our dry ingredients, which was brown sugar, regular white sugar, all-purpose flour. We had a little bit of baking soda and baking powder, some salt, and we spiced it up with some pumpkin pie spice. And we just mixed it all together, and now we have our oven at 350, and once we put this in our pans, we can mix up our topping. What I've already done right there in that bowl is put half a stick of butter. I use unsalted butter, and it is not quite room temp, but it's a little soft where we can handle it. And we're gonna add in there a little bit of flour, half a cup.
Why do you use unsalted butter?
I like to use unsalted butter so you can control how much salt you put in. We put salt into our batter, and that's just what I use on hand, just you know,
personal preference.
Personal preference. And this is half a cup of brown sugar. We're going to add a teaspoon of our pumpkin pie spice again.
Ooh.
And then you just get in there and mix up with your hands, get that flour and sugar and butter kind of all worked through, and it's going to kind of create little pea-like, green pea-like shapes, you know. And then we're just going to crumble it over our bread. It's kind of like what we put on top of a cobbler or something like that.
Looks so good. And I actually was in another Greer's recently in Grand Bay. You have a location out there as well.
Yes, we do. Joe always finds himself in one of our stores.
That's what I do. I go all over, and wherever I'm like, hey, there's a Greer's. Greer's, just
Yeah.
stop in. So.
Yeah, we have that store down there in Grand Bay, and we remodeled that store a couple years ago, and now we've started on our store in Bayou La Batterie, and it's going to be very similar to our Grand Bay store as far as the front facade facade, and we're really excited to fix up the store down for the people in the bayou. So
yeah, and I know they're going to be excited as well to have the Greer's store there and fixed up and nice and ready to go shopping and get all their groceries in there.
Yes, we are working on the front right now, and then we'll be starting on the inside soon. So now that we have all of this mix, we just put it on top, and like I said, it's a quick bake. It's just going to take 30 minutes in a 350-degree oven, and it will be ready to eat or give away.
So eat. It will be ready to eat because we're not giving this away.
Yes.
Looks so good. The recipe is online. Go check it out. Also information about Greer's and all of their locations as we've been talking about throughout the Gulf Coast. Stop in, get you something good at great prices. And is this good to go over here?
That is freshly baked. Go ahead and try it.
I want some.
And this topping really makes a difference.
Mmm.
You like it?
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back with more Studio 10.